Crime crackers.
A loud gunshot and a strong woman's scream jerked me out of a sound sleep. The girls and I ran out on deck and gasped in horror, for we saw our Bella in her exquisite white wedding dress in a pool of blood. This was supposed to be our best weekend ever over the past months. Our high school friend Bella's bachelorette party in our hometown. What more could one possibly desire? In a few days, she was to become the wife of a wealthy financier, Mike. He suggested hosting the party on his luxurious yacht. The only people in attendance were Bella's closest friends. Me, her own sister Carrie, her fiancé's sister Pam, Bella's co-worker Alice, with whom she had worked for years and had become true friends, and Diane, our classmate, whom Bella had become especially close to since I left town. The party was a whole lot of fun. We were dancing until almost dawn and toasting to Bella's happy married life, and she was glowing with happiness. And none of us suspected that in just a few hours this fun would turn into a shock and mystery of which guest, while wishing the bride the best out loud, actually wished her dead. I walked over to Bella's body. I saw a heel print in the pool of blood. Alice was the only one of us who had such a small foot, and she stood staring at the body without taking her eyes off it. She wasn't dressed in pajamas or a nightshirt like the rest of us, but remained in her party outfit. That meant she hadn't gone to bed, and was already on the deck when we ran out. When I asked Alice what happened, she nervously assured me that she was on the other side of the boat when she heard the shot. And when she came running back, she found Bella dead. And then I realized that we were the only people on the boat, so the murderer is still among us. The girls, all in tears, went to call the coastal police. Meanwhile, I stayed by the body. It was getting dawn, and I saw something glistening on the floor in the sunlight. It was a small gem that I recognized immediately. It belonged to a famous collection of designer dresses. Every such dress is made in one piece in the world. I knew that because I'm a fashion expert. None of us had ever worn such a dress to a party. But maybe one of us has one in her suitcase? The coast police on the phone told everyone to disperse from the deck to their cabins and wait for them there. We were a long way out of town, and it would take about 2 hours for the nearest patrol to get to us. Well, that'll be my time to investigate. The first person I decided to see was Alice. Pretending that I had a bad headache and needed a pill, I walked into her cabin. She didn't have any painkillers, but she did have a desire to talk about who might have killed our friend. Alice said she knows she's the prime suspect. However, she believes that the real killer is Bella's own sister. After all, Alice heard the girls fighting among themselves once the party was over. Carrie kept urging Bella to sell the house their parents had given them. Bella flatly refused to do so because she wanted to live there after her wedding. But Carrie urgently needed the money since her husband had major issues with his business. Half of the proceeds from the sale of the estate would make up for it. Besides, Carrie was a licensed marksman and also enjoyed hunting. I thanked Alice for trying to find painkillers for me and went out on deck. Her sister, Carrie, was crying over Bella's body. She didn't see me, so I decided not to bother her. I walked around the perimeter of the scene. There were no shell casings or weapons on the deck. The killer probably tossed them into the sea. Carrie heard my footsteps and turned to look at me, and I noticed the sharp nail marks on her cheek. It was the exact form of manicure our Bella liked to wear. When I asked where the mark came from, Carrie told me about the fight. So Alice's information proved true. The bride's sister said that she called her dead sister a selfish bitch, and Bella got so furious that she slapped her in the face. It was the last conversation between the sisters. It hurt Carrie the most. When I asked Carrie why they had a fight, she lied, saying that she asked to borrow money, but Bella refused to give it as she was planning to spend this amount for her honeymoon. That lie put Carrie at the top of my personal list of suspects. I was about to leave when Carrie pulled a small pink sheet out of her pocket and handed it to me. There was nothing but one phrase written on it: "You will pay for your lies." She found this sheet on the table in Bella's room. Who would write something like this? Is this a real message from the murderer, or is Carrie just trying to cover up her crime? I should get the answers to these questions. Carrie then told me that the bride had another tough conversation yesterday. Her friend and colleague, Alice, had discovered that the CEO position they were both competing for had been offered to Bella after all. It was up to the groom's father to decide who gets the job, so Alice also had her own motive for murder. I walked out of Carrie's having heavy thoughts and met Diane in tears. No one had been so close to Bella these past few years. Diana beckoned me to come into her cabin. The cabin was a complete mess. I picked up a plush blanket from the floor and couldn't believe my eyes. There was the outline of a gun visible on the pile. I looked back at Diana. She was standing there with a cigarette in her teeth, bringing the gun up to her face. A second later, she pulled the trigger and lit the cigarette. I exhaled a sigh of relief. She smiled sadly. This lighter had been given to her by Bella back in the day. And ironically, it was the one Diana had brought to the bachelorette party. Diana had no suspicions about who might have been the murderer, but it was the groom's sister who disliked Bella the most. I asked to borrow the blanket, lying that I got cold. Being careful not to ruin the outline of the gun, I took it with me and hid it in my cabin. Pam was the only one among us who acted like nothing had happened and was sipping sparkling wine. She wasn't very enthusiastic about her brother's decision to marry Bella, and the first thing I spotted on her desk was an open pink notebook with a sheet torn out. I felt a nervous wave run through my body. Pam started pondering who might have killed Bella and admitted that she'd love to hold her by the throat, too. Pam was sure Bella would have cheated on her brother with some man. After all, she'd seen her outside the hotel once, although Bella claimed that she was taking Spanish lessons for her upcoming project. Then Pam found out through her connections that Bella came to the hotel weekly. I was struck by that story. However, can I trust someone whose notebook sheet was used to send a threat to the bride? Next, Pam pulled out of her traveling suitcase the very dress whose stone I'd found by the body. I froze. But Pam took the surprise in my eyes as a compliment to the dress. I complimented the dress and hurried out. I had an urgent call to make. I dialed the hotel number and introduced myself as Bella. I asked for the same room as usual, a room for two. Then they asked me for my companion's name. I replied, the same as usual. The receptionist repeated the details for clarification, and I felt sick. That's who Bella's secret love is. And then I felt a heavy blow on the right side of my head and everything went blank. When I opened my eyes, the policemen were standing over me. It turned out that they were the ones who found me unconscious. I came to realize that I was one step away from my own death, and only the arrival of the police saved me. Well, murderer, I'm gonna get even with you. When I came to, the divers had already retrieved from the depths of the sea the gun that had killed Bella, but the water had washed away the prints. The detective asked everyone to come forward with their suspicions. When it came to me, I had a few things to say. I started with Pam. I showed them the rare gem from her dress and emphasized that Pam wasn't willing to let the woman who cheated on her brother into the family. However, it's not as strong a motive as killing someone who has refused to continue a relationship with you and is marrying someone else. I pulled out the note found by Bella's body and urged the detective to ask each of us to write the same text with our left hand. And then something happened that shook my confidence in the accuracy of my investigation. Because the text written in the left hand matched exactly what the bride's sister had written. But Carrie went on to assure everyone that she didn't do it. When the girls reminded her of the slap mark on her cheek and the scandal with her sister over money, she showed her phone the bill her husband had sent. His business partner had closed the debt hours before the fatal shooting. At this point, Carrie remembered that since high school, she and Diana and Bella had agreed to do each other's homework. Each of them would do the homework for one subject and write the answers in 3 notebooks, which means Diana knows how to forge her handwriting. Plus, Diana always played baseball and tennis with her left hand. And my blow to the head also indicated that the bat was held in the left hand. But Diana argued that all of that wasn't enough to blame her. So I had the detective put the gun on the blanket I found in Diane's room. The outline was a 1-to-1 match. However, Diane said that wasn't an argument either, and she hadn't killed anyone. I decided to play the odds and asked Diana how long she had been Bella's lover. She laughed, so I turned on the recording of the phone conversation with the hotel receptionist, and that's when Diana got hysterical. She said that while we were enjoying the bachelorette party, there was a conversation between her and Bella. Diane begged her to call off the wedding. After all, their affair is about to be 7 years long, and she loved no one as much as she loved Bella. Diana knew that if Bella refused, she would kill her. She could not forgive the rejection of their love. This was Bella's last chance for redemption. However, the fiancé was undeterred. She stated that she no longer wants to continue the relationship. Moreover, she demands to stop their communication at all, as she is worried that Pam has already figured out that she has an affair. That's when Diana decided to frame the sister of the groom. While we were all on deck, she entered Pam's room, ripped a gem off her unique dress, and wrote a note with her left hand in the notebook. She thought it should be enough to confuse the investigators. Then, she took a gun out of her suitcase, put it on the couch, and returned to us. When everyone had gone to their cabins, she shot Bella, scattered the evidence, and quickly ran into the cabin because she heard Alice, who was my first suspect, running from the other side of the boat. The police immediately handcuffed Diana and put her in a patrol boat. 6 months later, she was convicted of murder. But did she really love Bella? I believe that true feeling gives us the strength to let go, no matter how hard it is. To make the person we love happy, even if it's without us, instead of taking away their life.